the number of Muslims in the West is going up. That's a fact. The number of Christians in Muslim countries is collapsing. That's also a fact. By 2050, Islam is expected to be the world's largest religion in terms of followers. This issue has massive implications, yet it is almost never discussed. Not because it is unimportant and not because no one notices, but because it is uncomfortable. And the reason it is uncomfortable is that the dominant narrative in the West is a bad mixture of multiculturalism and political correctness. A few days ago, I saw a video by my friend Sahar. Go follow him. He's a master of debunking anti-Israel videos. The link will be below. He was reviewing another video that shows how Muslims want to take over America by creating closed Muslim-only communities. Throughout the video, he said several times that the West needs to wake up.
It's already happening, guys. Wake up. So people in the UK, chop chop, it's time to wake up. Yet it's happening as we speak. So wake the frick up.
I agree and I disagree. The West doesn't need to wake up. Waking up is for those who are asleep, unaware. What the West really needs to do is something much harder. It needs to admit it was wrong and change course. And fast. Multiculturalism is the idea that no culture is better than other, that it is all just in the eye of the beholder. In a moment, I will show you how easy it is to disprove this nonsense. Political correctness makes it so that if you do notice cultural differences, and we all know they exist, you are not supposed to say anything. Definitely not criticize it, because of the danger of being labeled a racist. I'm not a multiculturalist. I hope you aren't either. Let me be clear, when it comes to the unimportant things, skin color, clothing, music, food, sure, why not? Who cares if your skin is darker or lighter, or whether you like rice more than pasta? You can identify as whatever you want. Do you do a good job? I will hire you. But when it comes to the essentials, the fundamental values, democracy, women's rights, equality before the law, these are not negotiable. And our Western society must be absolutely clear about that. There are ways of life that cannot be tolerated. Nazism, communism, and Sharia law, which a large number of Muslims want to push into the West. Let's give concrete examples. Women's rights. Do you believe women have equal rights to men? If so, are you willing to accept a culture where women do not? Let's say I tell you that in my culture, it is acceptable to beat women. That in my family, it's a tradition. My grandfather beat my grandmother. My father beat my mother. And I beat my wife. Is that acceptable? Or if in my culture, a woman is considered property of the man at the head of the family. Is that acceptable? That's Sharia law. By the way, the age of marriage, or to be precise, the age at which girls are married off, is very low. Is that acceptable too? So, do you believe in multiculturalism or do you believe in women's rights? You can't have both. Another example. One of the best things about the West, something we take for granted, is equality before the law. Under Sharia, non-Muslims have an inferior status called dhimmi and must pay a special tax called jizya. That's only for Jews and Christians. Members of all other religions are to be executed. That's also the punishment for leaving Islam. So again, the question, do you believe in multiculturalism and accept that non-Muslims must pay special taxes, or are you a decent human being with moral backbone? How many Muslims in the West want to see Sharia implemented? Depends on the poll in the country, but it ranges between 30 and 50%. That's not a small number. And here is another thing. In Muslim countries, it is always, or almost always, the religious extremists who end up on top. I'm always amazed by how quickly Western Europe forgot that Thousands of Muslims who were born and raised in the West joined ISIS and committed the worst barbaric crimes. This happened just 10 years ago in Syria. 20 years from now, it will happen in Britain's cities. The signs are already visible. You can also see it in the general level of violence. I love how the media frames violence incidents, sexual assaults, and riots under the vague label migrants. Are those migrants from India? Maybe Chinese migrants are throwing stones at the police? Or is it, Western European who allow Sharia law are like people watering the tree on which they will be hanged? So, what can be done? The first thing is not even against anything, it is for something, for Western values. It doesn't matter if you're from Britain, France, Czech, Poland, the US, or Israel. Be for Western values. Be proud of your nation's contribution to Western civilization. As an Israeli Jew, of course, I could point to all the countless contributions of Jews and Israelis to the world. But let me say a few words about Britain. I just got back from London a few days ago. London is a city located about 6,500 kilometers east of Wisconsin. My wife had her 40th birthday, and for the first time we traveled without the kids. Highly recommended. One thing that bothered me, even though we did all the central tours and visited Britain's most iconic sites, there wasn't a single word about Britain's enormous contribution to the world. Now, I'm not a British historian. I will just share my opinion as an Israeli tour guide and low-level Mossad agent. I have plenty of criticism of Britain in the Mandate period. My grandfather fought the British. The British blocked Jewish immigration from Europe, Jews who could have been saved, while at the same time didn't limit Arab immigration into the land of Israel. The British created Jordan, and British officers led the Jordanian army that invaded Israel. They appointed Hajj Amin al-Husseini as a Grand Mufti, the man who led Arab attacks on Jews and collaborated with the Nazis to exterminate Jews. I could go on with criticism, but if you compare the land of Israel when the British arrived in 1917 to how it looked when they left in 1948, it's a different world in every field. The British brought law and order after centuries of corrupt Islamic rule. They built infrastructure, roads, railways, the port of Haifa, the airport. Yes, they did it to serve themselves and their empire. But here is the important point most people missed. It didn't come at the expense of the locals. On the contrary, it advanced the locals, Jews and Arabs alike. Look at medicine, epidemic, infant mortality. The British brought progress, good progress. And I think this wasn't just true in the land of Israel, but across the British Empire. And when I walked around central London, I didn't see one word about Britain's immense contribution to the world. By the way, Britain was also the first country to abolish slavery. Nice, isn't it? And beyond that, thanks to Britain, German is not the dominant language of Europe. And trust me, for that alone, the British deserve thanks. In English, the covers everything. The boy, the girls belong to the dog. In German, you've got like 12 different ones. Der, die, das, den, dem, des, a nightmare. The very first thing the West must do is be proud of its heritage. Once you have firm foundations, everything else becomes easier. And this needs to be taught in schools and said clearly to everyone who comes to live in the West. These are the basic values: democracy, women's rights, equality before the law. You think gay shouldn't be teachers? That's what most Muslims in Britain think. You think women should always obey their husbands? Again, that's what most Muslims in Britain think. You want Sharia law? Great. Go to Yemen, go to Afghanistan, go to Syria, go to Egypt. Go to the places where Sharia law already exists and enjoy. The thing people in the West don't understand is that Islamization is a one-way road. At the beginning of this video, I said that the number of Muslims is rising, but also that the number of Christians in Muslim countries is collapsing. This is important. If you told me, yeah, Belgium and England are becoming more Muslim, but in Iraq and Pakistan, the Christian communities are growing fast, I would say, fine, fair enough. But that's not the case. Islamization is not something that happens only in the West. It also happens in the Middle East. The clearest example is Lebanon. When Lebanon was majority Christian, it was the pearl of the Middle East. In just a few decades, the percentage of Christians dropped from 60% to 30%. And the moment Christians leave, the country collapses. And it happened very fast. The Middle East used to be made up of many different ethnic groups and many Christian minorities. All of them, all the Christian communities, and every other minority in Muslim countries are persecuted and erased. Not just Christians, Hindus, Jews, Baha'is, Zoroastrians, Druze. There are no thriving minorities in Muslim countries. They all live in fear. And that's where Western Europe is going. Sorry, that's where Western Europe is running. Now, in the comments, I often get people calling me a liar. They throw words around like propaganda, hasbara, Zionist. The last one, by the way, is true. To all of them, I say, prove me wrong. Write to me, hey, I'm from the Netherlands, and here the Jewish community is way more violent than the Muslim community. Or, hey, I'm from France, and here it is Jews attacking Muslims. Or, I'm from Iraq, and actually the numbers of Christians has gone up in recent years. Instead of calling me names, just prove me wrong. Give me links to Muslim thinkers who argue that Jews and Christians are just fine. I'm waiting for you in the comments. By the way, there is only one minority that has actually succeeded and grown in the Middle East, the Jews. And that's what the war in Gaza is about right now. The war is not about a Palestinian state. It's about Islam's refusal to accept Jewish sovereignty. Hamas is not a national movement. It's a religious movement. It's part of the Muslim Brotherhood, an organization with branches in the US and in Western Europe. So throw multiculturalism and political correctness in the trash and start appreciating and defending Western values. They are not perfect, but they are far better than anything else out there. Drop a like, leave a comment, and if you speak other languages, Spanish, Italian, French, Deutsch, follow me on those channels too. The links will be down below. Thank you to all of my supporters. Everything I do is thanks to you. That's it. Yalla bye.